Hello everybody, welcome back to SketchCraft Live, take 2! Wolverine Saucy's. Brandon James is joining me to talk again. Say hello.
Snit, snit, Wolverine time!
It's actually Snicket, but I don't want to get into it. So,
You gotta steal my thunder.
yeah. So, what is this? This is some Wolverine Saucies that I did for the Brandon. The Amazing Las Vegas Con. That was your cue. Great pass, Brandon. Great pass. So, teamwork. Right. So I did this for the Amazing Las Vegas Con because every con someone asks me, do I have a Wolverine print? And my answer always is what?
No.
Right. So now I was able to say yes, only this time no one asked. So that was fun. It was like they see the Wolverine, they go, you have a Sabretooth? I'm like, fucking motherfucker. So, right. That being said, I painted these up. These are the final two. Always remember this, folks. If you paint a blue and yellow, blue and gold Wolverine, someone will ask you why not the brown and orange, or whatever. So
never fails.
You gotta paint both. That's what we're gonna watch here. So let's bring up the video. Here we go. Cue to
28.
27 seconds. Either way, it doesn't matter. 1 second difference. Ready to hit play, Brandon?
Yep.
Okay, hit play. So this is the line art. I drew it separately and then re-inked it onto Kanzen Media XL paper, which is like a heavier weight, 210 GSM, whatever. Just a heavier paper. And then I'm painting it using, see, I just messed up the paper. See, I just put some water on top of that with a little paper towel. Cleaned it right up. Cleaned it right up, folks. It's amazing. Anyhow, I painted these using Dr. P.H. Martin's watercolor inks. So someday I got to make a video on all those colors. That's a pain in the ass to take out, folks. So.
Oh yeah.
You've seen my little tote case, right? My little laboratory of color.
You're like a chemist. I mean,
Yeah.
It's like Breaking Bad of like colors and marker supplies and everything. Yeah. Rob will show up to anything event, my house, wherever, and it's just like, I'm like, are you setting up a lab right now? What are you doing? He's like, oh, this is my travel studio. So
yeah,
it's a lot. And
then I'm actually jumping between the two pieces, you can see, to save on ink. So the skin tones here, skin tones there. The lighting scheme is pretty simple. When I'm drawing the line arts, I work out a shade layer with pencil, and then I just apply the color to that shade layer here, and then work out the difference. So I'm also using a number 4 round to start, like a nice bolder brush tip, and then I'll work into like a number 2 or a liner brush towards the end.
I remember when you were working on the yellow and blue one, and I asked you about this yellow. I was like, oh man, that's pretty bright, and you're like, yeah, Dick, it's not the final one. It's just
yeah. Brandon doesn't understand anything about layering color. He just assumes the one color you put down is the same. It's always going to be. You know, like I struggle with this in him when you go to color your own stuff, because you're like yellow, and I'm like no, like it's gonna take years.
Yellow and darker yellow.
So while that dries, I paint this one. I prefer to paint two at the same time, even if they were separate. You know, I try to separate color schemes. I try to. It's easier when they're similar because you can use the same paints, right? But while one dries, I can paint the other. That's basically how it works. I'm not sitting there waiting for the paint to dry.
Move your mouse arrow off the center of the drawing.
Yeah, whatever.
That's bugging me. Little OCD.
Little bit.
It'll bug somebody.
You need to get OCD about your color.
Yes.
Go ahead and talk for a little bit, Brandon. I gotta sneeze.
Okay. So Rob is laying down the colors, and they are fantastic. And
shut up, Brandon. Talk for real.
That's the hard thing, to just randomly talk real stuff when you're watching someone draw. I mean, most time when people are watching us draw at cons, they don't ever talk to us. They just stare in awe and say, "Oh, I wish I could do that."
Well, they watch you sweat. That's what I do.
Oh, I do. That's what I do right now. And you put me on the spot. You're like talking. I'm like, pancakes.
So the Copic equivalent of that blue would be a B05 in Dr. P.H. Martin's.
It's like
whatever.
a fluorescent blue.
Can't remember. It's like a B19 or some shit. I can't remember. But it's just like, it's more like a Pantone process book, a cyan, like a true cyan. Salty ocean would be the distress ink equivalent. And then as the edge dries, I just take water, and if I want a softer edge, just take water and soften the edge of the paint with water. It softens the edge. Like, see, that's just water. And then I'm kind of clean off the brush and smudge it around to create that fading effect. It's
All
really
with one same color.
Yeah, really, yeah, one same color. I don't have a light blue in it. See, here's how watercolors work, folks. It's about intensity of color, and then diluting that with water. And when it dries, then you add another layer of something that creates contrast or darkness. That's what transparent medium is like. When you're using like opaque medium, like gouaches or oils, generally you're painting in like a dark, high contrast, dark value painting first, and then you're painting lightness on top of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it throws people off. I don't know. I seem to get this easier than I get the other way.
Right.
For whatever reason. But if you notice, like there's a lot of drips and splats in my final saucies. I don't add that until the end. If you add drips and saucies when you first start, when they dry, you're just painting those away.
You're just moving them. You're just pushing those colors around, anyways.
Right. So that's the number 2 brush that I do to kind of do little finer details. So it's number 4 and the number 2. I tried doing them all with one brush for a while, and it's pointless.
Yeah. Do you prefer to use the wide brush or the smaller brush, or does it matter?
If I could only pick one, it would. If I had, right now I'm using 3 brushes: the 4, the 2, and the liner. I could do the 4 and the liner if I had to. The 4, that big thick brush right there, really helps get in. I mean, if you're doing a small little brush with that, you're gonna be there all day. It's like
Right.
So that's just the lighting guide, the shade, but I'm shading it with color. So that works, the base color.
Mm-hmm.
As it gets darker, where the white is, you could just clean that in with color, which you'll see me do. Or you could leave it white open, like if you're at a convention. Like what you see here, I would get the base colors in at a con, let that dry, and then just add some drips, and that would be it. You know, like that, because at a con there's no time. You see, like even cats like Chamba, like they have the white area for the lighting.
Right. They use a lot of negative space.
Because of fucking time. There's just no time to be spending 5 hours at con working on one commission.
Or you'll see a lot of more bigger, professional artists. They'll use like a Sharpie marker or something. And they'll just use the Sharpie marker for the dark spots and then negative space white for the rest of it. And you're just like, okay, well that's Batman. So.
Right. And now, while that dries, I'll go and grab this piece. Vice versa.
Do you have a preferred Wolverine you like?
Age of Apocalypse.
Out of these two.
Oh, brown and gold.
Yeah, I would imagine I prefer the Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. True, that's my all-time favorite look. Just is, but yeah, out of these two, I think I would go the brown and yellow.
I don't see Wolverine wearing shoulder pads.
There's not a point to them. They've like.
So now I'm starting the drips, and I'm using the shade, like a colored shade. So this is like a spice marmalade. It's a golden color. And then I'm trying to drip over the surface of his anatomy. So imagine that those shapes, his legs are actually 3-dimensional. I'm trying to go over that surface with the drip so that, like if you were pouring the paint over a statue,
right,
is the idea. I got to be very careful not to put it in his face, those drips. Otherwise, it looks like they're bleeding. Like I made that mistake. Or if it's right near the ass, it looks like their anus is bleeding, and in which people that you love and respect, or you thought you did, then make jokes about your anus is bleeding on your art, on Facebook, and that's never fun.
Shout out.
You question why you were ever friends with those people in the first place, and they're like, man, you were really butthurt. You never let that go. And I'm like, oh, no, butthurt. Remember anus. Anus is bleeding. So I never forget a scorn.
Never.
Never. It's a fault of mine. I'm not proud of that.
It happens. I had a question until you went on your tangent and I forgot. On my screen, the color you're using right now for the drips kind of have like an orange tint to it.
Yeah, that's actually a tiger yellow. I think that's 55B or 55C, tiger yellow and PH Martins.
I like that one a lot. I think I've seen you use it on another piece, but I like the way it just looks. It's one of those you call magic colors that I like, where it looks good on a lot of different things.
Yeah, you could put it on red, get a nice warm. You know, you could put it on yellow, you could put it on brown, you could put it on skins. I mean, you could throw it right in that highlight area of the blue. You know, you'll get a little bit of green crossover, but that's fine. You know, life is like that. Life is
Right.
like a box of chocolates, right? So now you see, I'm not putting that on his. I'll be very careful about how I apply these drips onto his face. Very careful. Like this just takes a lot of trial and error.
hmm And I notice, like you're saying, where you go around the 3D objects, like the shoulder pads, the drips go one way and then it hits the edge and then they drop down to add that 3D look. And I think a lot of people, myself included, forget to add those 3D looks of things. You know, the curve of the belt, the curve of the gloves.
Yeah, but I would say this, right? I didn't bother with that when I first started figuring this little style out because I was so focused on trying to figure out how the paints worked.
Right.
You know, so I just ran it through the art and was like, well, I don't really care because I know it's going to take like 100 of these before I even know what I'm doing. And it did. It took about 100 of those paintings to get to like here. And even now, this is what I call Saucy 2.0. I have what you've seen, the 3.0 version coming, right?
Yeah.
So, which by the way, I'll be doing this exact same pose with. So sometimes when you're experimenting too, it's good to have a pose you already know. You can just keep reusing because then you know the structure. I've had you do that a few times now, right? Just keep repainting the same thing over and over and over.
It's got better every time.
Right.
At least hope it has.
But yeah, this is like a salty ocean or a really strong ultramarine blue. Over maybe like in watercolors, the equivalent would be like a cerulean blue. Would be the lighter blue.
hmm
And you gotta like grab those little back edges of the shape and paint, down into like pushing the shapes and weighting them and then dripping. The drips you just make up, man. It's not hard,
Right. No rhyme or reason.
Other than it looks cool. Like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, that looks cool.
Right.
I want to make sure it doesn't look like he's peeing his pants. And that's the trickiest part with this shit. Like, okay, make certain people don't look like they're just having a wardrobe malfunction.
Right.
But this paper is nice because it dries, and then the after it dries, the watercolors don't really turn back on, as opposed to using watercolor paper.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Or
they
they
would
reactivate with more.
You don't want that with this.
Yeah.
Where are we at in the video? We're almost halfway. This shit takes 6 hours per, folks, and it's sped up 12 times. I've tried to speed these up faster, and it just moves too fast, and then you don't know what the fuck you're looking at. So
I made the mistake of doing that on a flats video, and people are like, "It's cool," but I also am like, "What the fuck's going on?"
now something else I'm doing here is I'm adding this. If you look, I'm adding the darks like up in those crevices and stuff. So it kind of pushes. I call it popping shapes out or pushing things backwards. Like under the belt right there. Really try to pop that belt out.
Mm.
Now I'm letting that dry. Or I took a break to get some iced coffee or some shit. And then we come back. And that's the number 4 brush. Number 2 brush, number 4 brush. And then the liner. I've done these whole pieces just with a liner brush.
Really?
That gets weird. Yeah, well, just to see, can it be done,
That's got to be tedious.
Yes. Big 11 by 17s, too. So
That would just drive a lot of people crazy.
I think I did that Deadpool. That one with the SWAT armor, all with the liner brush. That one. Suffice to say, I don't work exclusively with that brush anymore.
Right.
So now to add the shades on here. So I got orange, I got bright yellow. How do I add a shadow to this without making it muddy and black, right? Well, you use a sienna, a burnt sienna, which is a nice deep orange. In this case, it's rusty hinge, which is a distressing color, which I like because it's somewhere between sienna and like a spiced saturated marm. It's another magic color. It'll give you rusted colors, but it'll also give you some saturations. And that adds that nice 90s glow right?
Yeah.
The colors of the 90s.
How long did you spend on a test piece before doing these ones?
Probably a full day just practicing different experiments, you know.
Yeah.
Because this is when I was just trying to figure out how to do these things like this. You know, this one, the Hulk. That
Yeah.
one Hellboy that turned out weird, you know.
Yeah.
So,
You got some smudges over there.
oh yeah, yeah. The final pieces get smudges on them.
That's the real shit, people.
Yeah, yeah. I airbrush those out or Photoshop them out when I'm done. So it's gonna happen. I've tried to not let that happen. It's almost
Hmm.
impossible. If you're like me, you're just flinging color around, you know.
It's messy.
But you know, you let this dry, you can sort of see like it's just looking a little bit more three-dimensional now, right? Or action
Yeah.
figure-y. Like, I mean, I
Oh
draw
yeah.
like action figures and shit. I don't really, you know. This isn't Alex Ross here, you know.
Right.
It's like Alex Ross, the action figure.
Well, I think most people like that. I would assume most comic book fans or people watching is they like, if they're like me, they own a bunch of little figurines, statues, action figures, whatever you want to call them, sideshow pieces, hot toys.
Now that right there is also Rusty Hinge, same color. Just want to point that out.
Yeah.
And that yellow I put is actually a real saturated yellow. I think it's 1A in Dr. P.H. Martin's. I'm just haloing around those hot spots. And that's the tattered rose for the skin that I've been diluted. Yes, I'm drawing Final Fantasy soon. Mondays are commission days, so
You've already done a Final Fantasy couple pieces, but you're doing the new Final Fantasy stuff.
yeah,
Oh.
tomorrow. Believe me, folks, there'll be plenty of that coming up.
There's so much art in the works. There's so much. It's anything anybody can name right now. Like, hey, did you draw one of those? It's like it's coming, it's coming, it's on its way. It's anything you could dream of. It's happening. So how come? Oh, never mind.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask why you had the blue over the belt before the red, and then I realized that it's part of the underwear that they have. That
Yeah,
holds
how
up
does the belt? What does it go
the
through?
belt holds up the underwear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good old underwear on the outside.
Wouldn't it be great if Hugh Jackman just wore the blue underwear once to a con?
Or-
Just cosplayed. Just fuck it.
Right.
Just fuck it, man. Just wear that whole thing. Blue Speedo, wingtip boots.
Right? Just the Speedo, the belt, the boots, and he's just like, yeah, Wolverine's here to party.
So the P.H. Martin's makes a black paint. It's actually kind of like a purpley whatever, and I throw a little bit extra purple in there and dilute it to get the blacks, and that gives me that kind of like C5, C7, kind of like Copic marker equivalency. And then you see how like I painted the yellows and now I'm painting around that. So I'm trying to get the thought is that the yellow from his pants area would be like bleeding down into the image. But, you gotta like conjure that shit up, right? So, it's not actually, it's a nifty little effect. And now I'm gonna add some splatters right there. Super saturated. I've been pretty specific about I'm trying to get more specific on where those go. See my masking technique? I just take my hand and just sort of cover it.
Right? High tech, people. High tech.
Very, very high tech. And then this is probably where I should have zoomed the camera out. See, I look up and I'm like, oh no, this isn't on camera. Then I wonder how long I've been doing that. So, and then as I want it to get darker and darker, I just don't dilute the paint. No matter how dark it is, it's still transparent. So as it dries, it's not going to be as, what do you call that? Saturated. It's not going to be as dark as it looks when it's wet. You can even see like there, it's more like a C6 really at this point. And then now I'm going back in with that pure rusted hinge to add that real saturated shade area to pop those shapes out. And some splatter.
Do you enjoy doing the splatter?
I guess. Honestly, man, like once I know what colors I'm going to paint with, this all is pretty just fun. Like it's not really stressful, the painting, you know? The drawing and the figuring the whole fucking thing out, that's stressful. So, of course, it'll be like 3 months by the time I get back to the next time I do one of these. So I'm going to be stressing out for like a good week as I remember, how do I use these colors?
Right.
What the fuck was I doing? I'll rewatch these videos. You know, like that's actually why I make these videos, folks. I forget how I do this shit, so I can watch myself like, oh yeah, I remember. Oh, that's smart, Rob. Oh yeah. So. And then as it dries, add more saturated paint to the splatters. That gives it that two-tone. Now I like to put a little aqua blue, so I'll mix a little bit of this like, it's like a teal blue in to get a little bit of a greenish hue. Like when you got a white highlight with blue, you can go one of two ways, right? It's going to be white glow or like a teal glow. I like the teal green-ish.
Just because of the way it looks, or just...
Well, I just like the way it looks, you know. That's about it. I don't know. Teals are cool colors, you know. They're a pain in the ass to reproduce in printing, though. So now we move to this. And you can see the difference, right, when you put those two. Kind of flip between the... So now I'll work on this piece. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, see, that's a big jump. Now I get to do this all over again with the other shit. So... Unless I don't. Where am I at in this video? No. Getting close, about 10, 15 more minutes. Still, it's incredibly fast compared to painting one at a time and then going back and starting over.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I mean, if you could just grow like one more arm, you could have got it both done at the same time.
That's why I'm training you.
You might have better
reaching
luck.
out through the internet. Yeah, well, you know, right now it's an Evil Dead arm. It has a mind of its own and it fucks around and tries to kill me half the time, but yeah, I'm getting there. So this is real saturated ultramarine style stuff in here.
Just to push and pull those shapes out.
Yeah, but I'm also wanting strong, high color contrast. I mean, I really want these to be bright, you know?
Vibrant, yeah.
Yeah, vibrant. I don't want them... You know, I still want shades. Don't get me wrong. It's just... Because you need contrast, but I want the blues to be vibrant. You know, like, oh my god. And, you know, you've seen the difference. Like, as bright as this looks now, folks, you got to see them in person. Like, you know...
I own a Saucy 1.0.
1.0, the muddy.
And they're still. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and it's still vibrant as fuck. I mean, it's not as vibrant as these ones, but you know, compared to what I saw when it online, it just
I'll
different.
probably put this artwork up in the store at some point too, because I won't want to look at it anymore. So I'll just put them in the store. Fuck it.
We had some offers at the last con.
I didn't have. Yeah, I don't know, but I was like, no, I need to hold on to it. But once I figure out the new one, then I'll just get rid of these. And
Are you sentimental about it, or you just don't?
No, this isn't a brown. This is actually what they call like a mahogany. So it's like a red, like an Indian red.
Rich mahogany leather.
Yeah, it's like Indian red in watercolor terms.
Are you sentimental with any of your art, or you just hold on to it just because you want to look at it, observe what you did on it, and then eventually move on?
No, there's a couple pieces that I'm not so much sentimental. It's just like that Captain America with the giant gun. I'll probably keep, you know, forever. I had a $5,000 offer once for that.
Oh wow!
That con. Guy wasn't joking too.
I would have took it. If I was at the table and you weren't there, I would have gave it. Like, yeah, here you go.
Yeah, but that piece represented a fight I had with my art director at the time.
Did you win?
I made that piece in response. He told me I only drew like Roberto Ramos and I couldn't draw. I don't know. It was this whole thing that he regretted. He was just being mean. You know, we had to fight. What brand of paint do I use? I use Dr. P.H. Martin's watercolor inks and Tim Holtz Distress ink.
Where'd you pick those up at?
Amazon.
I don't know if it was like Dick Blick or.
No, I got them on Amazon. Free Prime shipping.
Oh yeah, we're all about saving money.
And so that's diluted rusty hinge right there. It's a lot of water added to it. And I track my water in like drops of water. So like 1 paint, 4 drops of water. You know, or 24 drops of water for something super diluted. If I want to just glaze.
Do you have that written down, or you just remember?
I write them down in a book, especially when I create colors, and I come back to it. So at some point, we'll be able to make a sketchbook, and I'll put those formulas in there. Is the goal. Or we'll do another digibooks or something.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Make it available for the peeps.
So that's that mahogany like color with no or very little, like I think just 4 drops, you know. Very close to its actual. It always looks fun when it's like actually wet because it reflects the light. You're like, oh, that looks amazing. And then it dries. You're like,
And then it dries.
oh.
It was cool.
Nah, it's just, it is. It's whatever. Where are we at here? All right. We're getting there. Almost done.
Yeah. We're making good time.
Watercoloring comic book characters are easier because their color palettes are simpler. Video game characters is fucking tough, bro. Like, like if you were like, do a Saucy Overwatch character, I'd be fucking, I don't know. Like there's just so much details.
Right.
I don't know about that one. I'd have to stylize the detailing of it,
Yeah.
Just because I've tried doing Saucy over tons of details, it doesn't work.
Kind of like the, would you say the Batman one you did a long time ago where he's on the wire? Would that be one example?
Yeah, that's tough. It's very tough.
Yeah.
To get that to work. So.
Was there any problems you had with these, or did they go just smooth the whole way through? I mean, is there anything that challenged you at all?
It was exhausting to do it twice. Just like mental, like I kind of just did that. Why am I doing it again right now?
Right.
So
just one of those times you just got to force yourself to work.
Yeah, you just put on like this is one set, but when I'm working, I actually will have 2 sets on. This one here, and then a second over here, or the earbuds or something, so I can listen to some music or an audiobook, because I can't stream the music, otherwise I get DMCA'd off the fucking planet, right?
Yeah.
So. Cool part is with a lot of this stuff too, though, is even though like I'm doing it twice, I can look at my other drawing and just kind of like follow what I previously figured out. So it's not like I'm refiguring out a lot of these drips, I'm literally looking at the piece I just did over to the left. I'm like just like, yeah, like that, like that, like that, like that.
There's still some variations though throughout them.
Right. I mean, there's no way you can mimic it.
Right.
Splat for splat, but.
But that's one of the cool things, they're not identical. I mean, they're kind of, but there's still uniqueness to each one. So, yeah, I like the brown and yellow suit much better. You should have went with the cat one when he first appeared. His little cat line.
The whiskers, the friskies, the friskies.
Little friskies. Yeah. His little curved claws, little tiny claws.
Yeah, the original grumpy cat.
I say that, and then now someone at cons will be like, "Hey, can you draw the original Wolverine with the little whiskers?"
No. And when they go, "Why?" Because I hate it.
Right.
And then it gets real uncomfortable.
And they just stand there and look at you thinking you're joking.
I just don't like it, man. Sorry, I don't want to spend my hours drawing. I just don't want to do the whiskers. Sorry.
No, I'll get even more out of request. Hey, can you do the one where he's wearing the eye patch and he's got the tuxedo on?
I just tell him I don't have the imagination.
Right. I can't fathom it. I just can't. I don't know how that would look. And they bring you back a book. I'm like, I still can't see it. I just don't get it.
What I'm trying to do is figure out how to make a career out of just painting like one eyeball in watercolor. Like, there's a whole group of artists that can just paint the one eyeball over and over again. Have you seen
Yeah.
that? They just do the one eyeball.
Hmm.
Fuck, I'm jealous. That would be. It seems much more time efficient.
Yeah.
If I could just paint the one eyeball, then you know. See right there, I forgot to add the. I'll fix that, or I won't. No, actually, I think the stripes are even red. I don't think they hold anything up on the brown ones. Like if you look at the X-Men comics, I remember looking at it and going, "There aren't any." Yeah, we saw the Old Man Logan, but I'll wait till there's an actual scene from the movie to figure out what that looks like. I mean, look, well, he wore the Weapon X outfit in Age of Apocalypse, and it didn't really work very well in that scene, you know. So I don't know. Of course, that whole movie didn't really work very well to me. So
Wait, what? What?
there was a question about the Hugh Jackman looking old.
Yeah, but I don't remember him wearing the Wolverine costume in.
He wore the Weapon X in Age of Apocalypse.
Oh, the Weapon X. Okay, yeah, yeah. The
It's in the
helmet.
trailer, so it's not like there's
No,
a
no,
spoiler.
no. I know.
They
The
put
helmet
that
thing.
big spoiler scene in the trailer. So.
Yeah, Hugh Jackson's getting pretty old. That might just be a picture of him in his kitchen, like just chilling. Like
No.
he looks smaller though. He didn't look as ripped as he did in the last ones. He was fucking huge in Days of Future Past. That's good though. I mean, he's only probably like 5'5" and just ripped as shit.
So now I'm coming back and just trying to get the little crevices, the little nooks and crannies, and then I'm holding them up to one another. Right, so you're like, catch up, cats up, catch up, cats up. So that's it, folks. That's the Saucy painting. Now you're wondering where is the blacks? I didn't stream it because why didn't I stream it? I don't know.
I think you're undecided at that point about it.
I think it came down to I was prepping for a con. Oh yeah, I wasn't certain if I was going to do these inks and blacks, and I asked you what you thought, and you said it looked good. So then I went and added them.
Sounds
So
all right.
now here's the magical part, folks. Like what I'm going to be doing soon is I did a test a while back. You can see here. Let's see if I can get this. I'm going to be adding silhouettes. So you can kind of see how that looks. It's so hard. Zoom out a little bit. So a majority of them will be in silhouette, and then I'll further enhance the lighting and drips and stuff on them. So this is coming soon to YouTube. As soon as I get to it. Viewing. One, to cut down on the painting time, and two, to increase the focal point. Because right now, you zoom out, it's just kind of an all-over thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to push this part back. The part that's closer inside the page, and then pop out the fronts. So it's been really hard with the Saucy trying to figure out how to create focal point in contrast with all the drips and splats plus details and drawing. Like, like it looks simple until you try it, right, Brandon?
Right.
And it just kind of falls apart pretty easily, if you don't, have a drawing and everything else. So I'm having to go back to like the 80s, like the late 80s, like around the Art Adams, Mike Mignola, when he used to draw everything and then add shadows to his stuff. Now it's kind of like all shorthand to kind of see how that works. Like I said, I don't understand the adding shadow. I just have to draw the whole thing and then add shadow. So
Right.
the silhouette stuff is the future of Saucy, though. That's where it's going. So this is the in-between, right? Couldn't have ended up there without doing this. So it's always a work in progress. There's always room to grow, folks. Brandon, anything else you want to add? Or any questions? Or
No. I mean, that was a long piece. I think moving forward, what I've seen with the new Saucies, it's going to be pretty badass. If people already love this, they're going to really like what you're moving to in the future, and that's always a good sign when you're not stuck doing the same shit. You're trying to figure out, okay, I do something good, but how can I do it better? So I think that's what I took away from just when you talked about moving on to the better Saucies. So
Ash gave some props. Appreciate it, dude. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and let this video sort of digest into YouTube, and then we'll be back on to continue coloring Rick and Morty. So join me back in another 10-15 minutes, and we will do that. Say goodbye, Brandon.
Bye-bye.
Dum, dum, dum. Dum, dum, dum. Dum, dum, dum. Dum, dum, dum. SketchCraft.
Live.